So, Rodney, what are some signs that you might look to know that we might need counseling or therapy?
Well, I think if you feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and not getting different results, which was it's a lot of us for binge and purge using coping behaviors, overwhelmed with anxiety or feeling like I can't really get to a healthy state of being and being overwhelmed. You've tried other resources. You might want to just find out somebody who, deals with those areas and can help you take that next step or begin to take a dive into what's going on. And just like anything else in life, if the cough doesn't go away, check with the cough specialist, the doctor, and see what's going on.
I remember when I started therapy, I was not in crisis. I didn't feel like I needed it. But it was within 2 months of starting that then crisis entered my life. And so it was like God's gift to start this at the time. But I just remember feeling like I wanted it. I wanted to have that conversation with someone who didn't know all of the small details of my life, and I don't rub shoulders with them in any other way, that they can objectively look at my life. And I felt like for me, that was a good enough reason to do it. I wanted it, and I wanted to explore it, because what's great is you can decide that you don't want to meet with your therapist anymore. You have freedom to do that. But I just felt like I want to be the type of person that allows experts to speak into my life, allows, people who know more about all of the stuff that goes on inside of me than I do, and can help bring, to your point, some of that discipleship stuff.
And Trevor, I think that's what's the word I'm looking for? That's a gift that culture has brought you, where you see it on a very proactive, positive perspective. Where in my world, right, I'm 56. Yeah. So my world was different.
Right.
It wasn't proactive. It wasn't positive. It wasn't vogue. It was like, man, this is only what the messed up people went to, especially anything around human sexuality, right? Yeah. So I think that's the benefit of society continuing to evolve, the church growing. God's leading us to taking care of yourself on all kinds of levels would be a really good thing to do. And isn't it great where you hear people going to get help and you're like, way to go. I'm so glad you're doing that. Yeah. Versus, I wonder what's wrong with Trevor. Or, did you hear Rodney seeing a therapist about sexuality? You know what I mean? Whatever,
Yeah, that's where I would say, if you have a heartbeat and you're breathing, you could probably see a therapist. And we've said that, everyone would benefit at some point in their story to sit down with someone that can help them analyze, understand. On a practical level, I might say if you have a difficulty answering the question, what things about your family of origin or your early development years have created problems or challenges for you in your current present day? And you're like, well, I'm not sure. I've never thought about it. Man, that's what therapists are there to do, is help you understand the connections and the ways that your story pieces together. Because as we've talked so much on this podcast, when we can make sense of our story, when we can understand what happened to us and how it impacted us, even if we grew up in a relatively good, solid Christian home, as we all know, can be very wounding. We need to understand that we've been impacted by it in ways that we're probably still living out today in unhealthy ways. And so a therapist, a counselor can just be there to help us unpack that in ways that really are difficult to do on your own. The other thing that I would say, if you're looking at, well, how do I know if I need a counselor or a therapist? A lot of what Rodney said is spot on. But I would say if you have taken steps into community and to group, because we get that a lot at Pure Desire, people say, well, I'm doing group at my church, I'm doing group online. Those are great steps. But if you find that you've taken that and you're still getting continually triggered by something or really wrestling with some unresolved anger, that's where having that expert opinion, a professional who can kind of look into the situation, is really helpful. And then the final thing I would say that I don't know if we've mentioned is just if you're facing significant relationship disturbance, your marriage is really tanking, things are very, very difficult at home, I just feel like no matter how much good work you can do on your own, if your relationship is really in peril, having a neutral third party, or even better, like we do at Pure Desire, having two neutral third parties, one for each of you that can speak into your situation, is, I think, an absolute must. Because I always said as a pastor, I thought couples came in for care or counseling 5 years too late. that the patterns of unhealth in their marriage that were driving them apart were usually about 5 years in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
They just waited and waited and waited. Yeah. And sometimes by the time they came in, they were at that point that it was irredeemable, truly, or right on the brink of it. And so I would just say, man, if you're having continual troubles in your marriage, go get help. Get a counselor to speak into it, because you really just need that outside perspective to work through some of the things you're facing.
Makes me think about what you say all the time, is that healthy people seek help.
Right.
And oftentimes we feel like seeking help is what makes us seem unhealthy.
Right.
But it's actually the opposite.
And think about the parent that can say to the kids, hey, mom and I or dad and I are going to go to see our counselor this week. We'll be back. That you're actually modeling something really healthy for your kids.
Totally.
And when you have problems, little Johnny and Sally, we want you to go seek help too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than somehow what's wrong, we're investing in us.
Yeah.
So